going to start sharing a screen again in a minute here, and we're going to act like we know what we're doing. And I'm not sure what happened with my computer, but welcome, guys. This is our second Empower Hour, and we are so excited. Tonight's theme is about field trips and group tours. Got a lot of great content to talk about, but hopefully about this event. Guys, this is a value-added event of being part of the North Carolina Agritourism Networking Association. And I can't say enough that if you are in the agritourism business, we learn from those around us. And what I find, I used to be the learner. I got a lot from the people here, and it's my job now to pay back to those coming in. And what I say, if you're learning from this tonight, understand it's now your job to pay forward to the next level. And what we learn, and we want to make it easier for the next group going in. But tonight's topic, and I'm so glad to see so many friends here tonight. But tonight's topic is one that was my deciding factor on if I wanted one thing that this was going to be about that I needed more information on. It was about field trips. And I'm going to give you a brief blurb on why it matters to our farm. And then we're going to welcome in our expert tonight and get the conversation going. But for our farm, we are really evolving in field trips, and we are doing more every year. And we've been really blessed, especially last year, because we had a really bad fruit crop, that our field trips really shot forward, and that was wonderful. The negative side of that, though, is there's a lot of challenges that come with field trips, whether it's how they pay you, whether it's how you communicate, what if it's your parking. There's so many different things that evolve around field trips. So that's where we're going to talk tonight. And I'm going to start with our expert of the evening. And she's the first person we thought about. But then I did hear there is a lady with the brains behind the operation joining us too. Miss Michelle Patterson with Patterson Farms. They take field trips to the next level. And I can't say enough about what they do. And they're so generous in their sharing of information as we evolve at our farm. And they continue to, but they really take it and move on with it in a different way. And so what we've done, and Marissa is sharing our screen now of some things that we hope to cover tonight that we hope will be beneficial. But please, let's talk to each other. And if nothing else, we hope to learn something from each other tonight. But we have Michelle Patterson, who's the owner, one of the owners of Patterson Farms. But I was told Desirae is the brains behind the operation of field trips. So that we're going to start with Michelle, and she's going to turn to Desirae to tell us a little bit about what they're doing at Patterson Farms for field trips. So Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, first, thank you, Beverly and Marissa, and all of you for joining and participating. And those were very kind words and hard to live up to. I do know that as far as we're concerned, just when I was talking to Beverly, I told her I was going to talk conceptually because that's kind of where I am now with our programming and the things that we do. But and Desirae handles the day-to-day operations as far as all the difficult stuff that we're going to get into, the nuts and bolts. But I will just share that we've been doing field trips for over 30 years. They are our passion. My mom was a school teacher, so I am, first very passionate about educating children. And then also I feel like a lot of that comes to educating adults as well. Their parents, because we all know that people are generationally further removed from the farm. So a lot of people just really don't understand. So I think that there's great opportunities for all kinds of field trips. I think sometimes we cut ourselves short or don't. We think we can do it one in the spring and one in the fall. I think there's lots of opportunities of things that happen on our farms that we can create some type of educational experience with. Now, when necessity is the mother of invention, and when when my husband and I decided to come back to the farm, I had to justify my salary. So the way that we did that was through our educational field trips, trying to get people back out to the farm. We were starting to see, we're a fruit and vegetable farm, so we were starting to see a decline in the number of people coming out and picking large quantities of strawberries. So 30 years ago, people were picking 20 gallons of strawberries, freezing them, putting them up and all. Go forward 30 years, which seems like a blink of an eye, but now our average customer is picking a quart because they really don't know what to do with their strawberries. They don't know how, and they don't have the time, and there's other resources. It's just a different lifestyle than what it was years ago. So anyway, also our market is very much a destination market. So we have to do things to have people, entice them to come out to our farm. That's changing. There's a lot of development coming up around us, but we're just not on the beaten path. So field trips are another way to get people to come to our farm and participate in our, be patronize our market as well. Additionally, it's marketing for us. We try to tell people, we try to tell our story, so that hopefully, in our case, a lot of times people can buy our product, like tomatoes, especially strawberries, in the grocery store and Walmart. But we're trying to cross promote ourselves and let people get that brand recognition. So field trips have a great value to our farm. And as the years have gone on, we have expanded our field trip season so that we're now doing field trips from the middle of March all the way till the middle of November. So, and another good thing is I'm in beautiful California right now, but I know that we've had rain back home. And a lot of times, the field trips still come, even though we may have rain. We try to accommodate them the best way that we can. Of course, we discourage, it's not the best, but it's another lesson to learn about weather and how it affects farms and stuff. Of course, you have to have your safety precautions. If it's severe weather, we go by a different protocol than if it's just raining. But the field trips, if they've lined up the buses and all, it's kind of hard for them to reschedule. So even on rainy days, we can have our field trips programs going on. So and like I said, I think everybody needs to look at their farm, the history of their farm, where they want to go. Just there's all kinds of opportunities. So I'm just going to list some of the field trips that we do, and you're welcome to go on our website and see a detailed list, and that's at visit pattersonfarm.com. But in the spring, we start with a tour that we do called Dirt on Dirt, and it's geared to third grade curriculum. So all of our field trips go back to the Common Core. We'll just keep watching and see if that changes or whatever. But right now, we in our county, especially when we started out, and surrounding counties, it had to be justified that it was there were educational components of it. So we have worked with the school systems. I've hired teachers in the past to help match up the curriculum, so that I know that I'm trying to enhance what they're doing in their classroom and by providing experiences that they can't necessarily do in their classroom. So you can see for the spring, we have a Dirt on Dirt tour, a strawberry tour. We have one on geocaching where we had buckets laying around and we used GPS for it because was the technology, and now we have some other technology that to do we treasure mine. So, and I can tell you that all for the most part, trips start out greeting them. We take a classroom picture of them. We use a program. Mainly, we did that as kind of a thank you for them coming out to our farm, but it's also on the back end a good way for us to get all of them together in one space, and then we can take them to into our theater where we do a presentation. Typically, there's a presentation. We do a DVD and a puppet show for our main, which are the strawberry and the pumpkin tour. Dirt, and then they feed the animals. They do a wagon, and then they usually pick a strawberry or pumpkin. Now the more like experiments or hands-on activities that we do. But like I said, you can, I'm just trying to show you that we have experiences, lots of different experiences. You don't have to limit yourself. It's good for us in March when we don't have money coming in to start doing those field trips, and having people come out and visit us on the farm. We have a whole different program where we talk about bees, we talk about all around the barn. We do the farmer for the day, geocaching and treasure mine, because they're very popular. And a lot of those field trips are geared to places that are doing summer camps, daycare centers and stuff. So they'll come out. I feel like I just spouted off a lot of information.
I was going to say, I love I think Michelle, now Patterson Farm has one of the most diverse field trip plans I have seen of anywhere, of places that we look at. And listen, we do two, we do the spring and the fall, and what she said, don't do. But you know, that it's a different gig, but I will tell you the diversity of hers, and Marissa was sharing that screen. Please visit our website to see some of the different things they do, and they take it to that next level of guest experience. And I love how they blend it in. And I will tell you, before we pass it to Desirae too, that I know Miss Rita Stepp is on here, and people that I learned field trips from. And one is Michelle Patterson, two is Miss Rita Stepp. Tammy was in that. Alma, you were probably in some of those classes, but it was that we were looking to the schools and saying, what do you need us to teach them about this? And let us hit your markers. And I can't say that enough, that we try to do better on our educational component now at our place. But I will tell you, Patterson's Farm is doing it. And when she says they're teaching to what the schools are wanting to be taught, they look at this and plan it. So I can't say enough about that. Michelle, anything else you want to say to finish up, and let Desirae talk about some of the basics of these tours?
No, I would say you're very, I'm looking forward to other people do. I feel like we always can learn from each other. Desirae can go over like the operational things that, and how we communicate with the schools, etc. But that's always a process. So I think like I said, we can all learn from each other. So thank you.
Without a doubt. And thank you. And for the record, she is in California today, and I think had to find a Starbucks to get connection to join us this evening. So thank you, Michelle. And Desirae, some of the specifics that Marissa started out sharing on that screen. What can you tell us about how you run tours there at Patterson Farms?
Well, I was an educator to start with. So I taught fourth grade for about 4 years, and I know the process very well. I decided I didn't want to teach for the rest of my life, but I wanted to do something with education. And then luckily, Michelle has been a great person that I can still teach without being in a classroom, which is really where my passion is. A little bit on the Common Core. I know she was just talking about it. So Common Core was created right when I started college. And the Common Core is essentially that kids are supposed to be taught the same things no matter where they live. So if I have a third grader in North Carolina and they move to California, they should be learning the same thing similarly at the same time. But what was happening is children were moving all around and they were getting lost in the whole translation. And they were missing huge chunks. So the Common Core was for them to create a common set of standards that every third grader should know, every first grader should know. They have it broke down of the first 2 weeks. This is what they are taught, and that is taught everywhere. The difference in North Carolina is when it comes to social studies and science, and that is where it's state specific. So if you go to NCDPI, and I'll put that in the chat, that's North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. And it will tell you exactly what is taught when it's taught. So it will say kindergartners, they should learn this in reading, this in math. Of course, it's hard to find activities that translate to that, but those science standards and those social studies standards is really where we kind of do our focus because it is North Carolina, focused. So you can go to North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and it will tell you everything, all the standards. And then you can go into science and social studies. And that's kind of how we built this tour, is Michelle would say, hey, what is something that third graders can come out and learn? So I go to the science standards. They're talking about weather patterns. We could do a tour about that. But the biggest thing that we saw for third grade in North Carolina is talking about soil and dirt. And that, of course, translate exactly into what we can teach about the farm, and it's important. So as a teacher, when you are signing up for a field trip in Rowan County where we are, you have to have a form that says, I'm going to Patterson Farms, and these are the standards that they are going to be teaching. Some principals are extremely strict about that. Some principals aren't, but we always provide those standards when we send out a confirmation packet saying, hey, teachers, these are the things that we are talking about. Now, this is not a tour that's going to teach them everything that they need to know about soil, but it's a stepping stone for them to say, okay, this is what we're going to learn at Patterson's. And then when we get back to the classroom, we're going to have some other activities that reinforce what we learn. So that's a little bit about the Common Core. It's the first thing I go to when we talk about creating a new tour. We're talking a lot about doing a dairy tour in the future. So for us, finding standards that match it, and there's a lot of standards that are dealing with technology from the past and technology in the future. And when you think about the dairy industry and how it's changed from 100 years ago to 50 years ago when my grandfather owned a dairy farm to what we can do now. Me and Michelle went to Tennessee last year and we saw a robotic milking barn, and how technology has completely changed everything. And that is how we can teach kids that technology is amazing when it works. It's amazing. It's a treat that they really need to be thankful they have, but also need to be thankful for all the things that have come before them. So that's kind of where we're thinking about in the future. But just a little bit about our tours. All of our tours are priced at around $12. And how we come up with that is we do a cost analysis of a tour. So we basically say, every tour starts off in the Barnyard Theater. That's where we introduce ourselves, get them excited about the tour. Like Michelle said, on Mondays and Tuesdays, we do a puppet show. And Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays for strawberry and pumpkin season, we do a DVD presentation. The biggest thing with us is that we are dealing with high volume number of kids in a very short amount of time. So we have to be very planned out in order for things to run smoothly. So on a busy day during strawberry or pumpkin season, we see about 600 kids a day. That's not including parents or teachers. And we're seeing them in a span from about 9 a.m. to 12, 1 o'clock. So we have to get all those kids in, give them through their educational component without them feeling rushed. And then, that's that. So it's a very difficult thing. So when we think about crafts and activities, we cannot have an activity or a hands-on activity that involves cutting with scissors, because there's no way we can have 600 kids cut something. We can't have anything that uses glue or paint, because there's no way for that high volume of kids for them to do something and then wait for it to dry. So that's one of the things that we are constantly thinking about is how can we have activities that they can do with no scissors, no paint, no glue, because when they come to the farm, we might see their kindergarten class, but we might have a kindergarten class and the next class that we see might be a third grade class. So their skills are going to be completely different. How we teach them is going to be different. So that's one of the things that we really have to sit down weeks and months in advance and say, okay, we want this hands-on activity. How can we change that? But like you said, like the materials that we use, we have to make sure that there's something that every child can do. We have a barnyard where they feed the animals. That is something that we're working on currently. Like Michelle said at the very beginning, like we are 3 generations away from having a family farm. So when all the kids that we see, all the parents that we see, they have very little knowledge about basic animal facts. So our goal is when they're with the animals, we have signage, we have postage, we have staff members in there answering questions, just about basic things. A lot of things that we would consider common sense or common knowledge is not the case anymore. And we've heard that time and time again with different groups coming in and they see a brown cow and says that's the cows that make chocolate milk. And you think they're joking, but they're not. And those facts are funny, but they're not the truth. And that's not what the message that we're sharing. If we have the opportunity to teach them the accurate things, that's what we're going to try to do. And we also always want to have a component of the tour that they take home with them. Michelle's really good about making sure that they leave with something tangible. So with strawberries, of course, that is picking strawberries in the field. With pumpkins, it's picking pumpkins. But for those other off-season tours, like we're doing the Farmer for the Day tour, they take home a hamburger garden. And the biggest question for that is, how do you grow a garden for a hamburger? And we sit down and we talk to them about, no, we can't grow a hamburger, but all the toppings that we have, the lettuce, the cucumbers that we can make pickles, the tomatoes, the onions, all those things come from a garden. And we talk about how buns are made and how the hamburger is made and how all these components come from some type of farm or another. So they get to take this little garden home with them. And then in the future, if they take care of their garden, they can have toppings for a hamburger. So they take it home with them and we put a sticker on it, a Patterson farm label, because a lot of the kids will say, hey, I went on a field trip today to a farm, but we want them to make sure that they are saying, today we went to Patterson Farms, because we want them to come back and see us at some other point. So we always want them to leave with something tangible and then, complete that experience. So our cost of our tours are $12. We do not charge teachers for our tour. We do that because we have a great reputation with teachers and we want to make life easy for the teacher, because ultimately it's the teacher who is booking the field trip. They are deciding which farm are we going to go to. We do have some competition. We have other farms that they could choose to go to, but we want to treat our teachers so well that if they do go to a different farm, and then they want to come back. So we don't ever charge them for tours. We try to make the booking process as simple as we can. We try to provide clear communication. And also a simple service that we do that our teachers love is they take their lunches off the bus and we take them to the picnic area for them. And since our tour is a guided process, our teachers can come, they can listen, they can enjoy, but they're not there to teach. That's our job that day. It's a moment for them to kind of listen to others, for them to help with, having the kids' attention, but we want them to feel like this is the day that they can enjoy, and they do. I've worked at Patterson's for 6 years, and you see the same names coming up and you see the same school names, and you're like, that's amazing because you're doing something right. So we always want to take care of our teachers. We give them gifts and we give them bags every year. We give them, extra books and things for them to use in the classroom because we want them to come back. So we really try to take care of our teachers. And we do charge parents to participate in the tour. We charge the same price as a child. We want them to participate. They're going to get to feed the animals. They can make a hamburger garden. They're going to get to pick berries. They're going to get a pumpkin. They're going to get to ride the tractor. And then when they go to our playground at the end of the tour, there's a bunch of activities that they can participate with the child. So we definitely make sure, that is one thing that we clearly communicate with teachers ahead of time. I don't want a parent ever showing up at my window saying, I didn't know I had to pay. And then they didn't bring any money. And they're little kindergartners seeing them from the bus and you can't turn them away. So I want to make sure that we have clear expectations on our booking confirmation. When a teacher books a tour, in order for it to send to me, she has to click a button that says, you're responsible for letting parents know that there is a charge and this is that. Over the years, we get less and less kickback from that because they are aware in advance. So that's something that we really try to make sure that they know. And what we use as our booking system, do you have anything to say, Michelle? Go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick that we have not, if somebody else has a better answer, that's fine. We don't get that much kickback like Desiree said anymore, but we often have more parents than actual children on our field trips. So we feel that it, they don't have to pay. We have to charge because they are participating, they're taking, they're hopefully learning, just like Desiree said. But, and also sometimes for them, then there are,
Just breaking up.
that was it.
Or Michelle's out of California and the connection takes a little longer to get here, I think.
Yeah. I can answer one of the questions in the chat. Someone asked, do you teach this, are your tours matched with the same time that they're taught in the classroom? And the answer is really no. In North Carolina, they tell you exactly kind of when are you supposed to teach this subject, etc. But 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade is the standards that actually have those state testing. So, we get a lot more flexibility when you're dealing with preschoolers, kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd graders. Our Dirt on Dirt tour is recommended to 3rd graders, and that's when we talk about soil. And we do that tour in March. Number one, it matches with their curriculum because they're about to have testing done in the next month or so. So having that field trip 2 months in advance, and like I said, we're not there to teach them everything there is to know about soil or everything there is to know about this farming practice, right? We're just here to facilitate, and then their teachers are still supposed to supplement activities in the classroom. So no, a lot of ours has to deal with the school calendar. We're having to see a lot of those issues this year. Students are getting out of school before the end of May. So they are booking our strawberry seasons last week of April, entire month of May, and they can only come maybe 2-3 weeks in April and May. So we're seeing this year a huge shift in our first week of strawberry tours is the last week of April, and it is slammed packed. I've never seen it that busy before. And then at the very end of the season, there's very few, or it's more like preschool groups or different things like that. So the school calendar does play a huge factor in what tours we do. So I would definitely, if you're trying to think of a new tour, is to see when your kids get out. A lot of the kids in our county cannot travel past, I don't know, May 5th, for example, because they'll have to use buses for testing. They have, when there's a EOG in the classroom, they're not supposed to leave the school. There shouldn't be any other distractions that's happening. So they very rarely let field trips take place during EOGs. So we're seeing it this year that, the first week of April or last week of April is extremely busy for us. So that's going to be a hard transition for our staff, is that we go from having maybe 200 kids here, 100 kids there, to next thing you know, it's 6, 7, 8, 900 kids for the next couple of weeks, which is going to be
that's amazing. And I want to do a few rapid fire questions if you could about you guys handle certain practices, and then that way I'll have some time for people to jump in and ask their own. But do you guys invoice? So, well, I guess my first question is, what is your percentage of public school versus a private school versus a homeschool? Are you 50% public, 75, and just estimates here?
So that's a good question. The majority of our tours, I would say, are about 70% public schools, kindergarten through 5th grade. I would say about 20, 30, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 30-ish% are preschools. Homeschools is kind of, we've switched that thought. Our booking, you have to have 10 students in order to book a tour with us. So for some homeschools that we see, that they'll just get a bunch of friends, family together, and they'll just book as a regular tour. But we have implemented a homeschool day, which is just a day during the season where we open it up to all homeschools. There is no minimum to book. They just come and they get to participate in many versions of the tour for the season. So our homeschool day this year, I think, is May 16th. And that's in the middle of strawberry season. But we're not only doing a strawberry tour for them, they're going to have strawberry activities to do. They're going to have farmer for the day tours. They're going to have dirt on dirt activities to do. So it's an entire day that's dedicated to them. We understand that if you are choosing for your child to be homeschooled, there's a reason for that, right? You do not like the traditional classroom sitting, listening type of practice. So for our homeschool day, we have a list of all the activities that they can choose from, and they can go to as many or as few activities and presentations as they want, right? They might be a homeschool mom and she might have a 5-year-old and she might have a 15-year-old. So we have the day kind of like where they pick and choose. It's not like a traditional tour that we have with a public school, because that's not what they want. They don't want to ask
you on homeschool. And a quick question on homeschool we've got coming in is that we've just started a homeschool day too, which has been kind of an interesting concept, because you're right. It does seem to be a unique niche of people. But we've got, do you require a prepayment on your homeschool day? We
don't. We very rarely do we have to ask for money from a public school. We don't. We send them. So I see a lot of questions about how we asked. So we use a system called Square. That's our point of sale system that we use at the entire farm. And there's an invoicing system. So the biggest thing that I see is that a teacher will say, I have 100 kids and it's $12 a kid. And I send it to them. And then the day of their tour, they have 90 kids. We only charge for the number of kids that participate that day. And we can send an invoice back. So they can either pay us in cash, which is great. They don't ever do that. They're going to pay us by check, which is fine. So we're telling a lot of these big schools, public schools, it's okay. We'll take payment after their tour. We're not having to find them. We're not having to call them. They're very, very, they take care of their money. Church preschools, they will come and pay with credit card, or they'll pay with wads of cash, which is fine. I like when they pay with credit card because then I can change their total right there and it's no big deal. The only time that we've had any instances of payment that we're having to say, we send them a bill and we just don't hear nothing back from them, is smaller daycares that don't have that reputation. It's not like a Smart Start, or it doesn't have that charter organization behind it. And we do send, when they book, it's a $50 no-show fee. So if they do not show up for their tour, it's a fee that we ask them to pay, because number one, we go ahead and pay for all the materials for the season in advance. And we also are paying our staff to be there as well. So if they do not show up, there's a $50 no-show fee. Now, if they don't pay that, then they do not book with us again. And that is very rare. Sometimes, when they are booking, it's very, very, I send them multiple things. Your tour is confirmed, but there is a no-show fee if they don't show up. And that's tough, especially when we have maybe one tour and I have 5 staff members there, all the materials prepped, and they don't show up, right? So I'm still paying my staff. We still purchased all the materials. So that fee hopefully kind of can, for them to understand that, this is a tour. Just like when you go to a doctor and they say, if you don't show up, it's $25. You at least call and cancel in the appropriate amount of time. And that's all we want. If they can't come, if they let us know in advance, that's all we can, because we can, do staff. Michelle, do you have a question?
That's true. I think that's a challenge for all of us, of the non-showing. And do you do a deposit? Do you not do a deposit? And what's going to make the best? Michelle, I see you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
In and out, my friend, in and out.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I will try. One thing that we are trying this year with our homeschool day, and we're thinking, so just to back up, and Desiree can go over it, but we use Bookio, which we can talk about that to schedule our field trips. And then we're doing Square to invoice to make it a little more complicated. We're throwing something else in there, but for our homeschool days, and perhaps for some parents, we're experimenting with adding Ticket Spice, which is our ticketing thing, so that those people could go ahead and, once they've booked their tour, we can send them a link to go ahead and prepay, because they can not go to our group check-in and just go in through the gate when they get there. It would hopefully ease some of that up. But that is something that we're experimenting. Would love to hear how other people are doing it. But we can report more
Michelle, on that one and go, we do the same thing. We just started homeschool days this year, and we did it via Ticket Spice. So they literally pre-bought. We didn't have them check in with us first. It made it incredibly simple. And then we know that when they pay in ahead, they have their dedication level is a little higher, I guess, for lack of a better term. But anyway, we've had a great response to doing the homeschool days. That way, 2 people can book on their own, 7 people can book on their own. It fuels perfectly, and we're able to lock in the total number of people that we need for that, whatever we're allotting for that group number. And that is working right now. This is our first year doing it, but we're very pleased with that result. Now, before I go back on another question here, I want to answer one that's in the chat. And it's how do you handle when a school cancels and you don't have time to fill that space and it's 100 or more students? And I'm going to take that really briefly first, of going that we have that that it's ones that you've held it. It's that Friday in September that's like the most coveted day. And then all of a sudden they can't get buses at the last minute, but it's too late to book it. We do nothing. We do that. We just take it. I want to ask Michelle and Desiree what they do, but from the orchard side here, We sadly do nothing as long as they tell us ahead. I agree with what Desiree said a minute ago. The worst part for me is to have 3 hayride drivers, tour staff standing on, and you got people standing around on payroll and then they don't show. Don't show is unacceptable. Rescheduling is a little bit better, or at least letting you know ahead of time so you can let your staff know. Michelle, Desiree, how do y'all handle those great big tours that you've blocked off a day, a peak day, and then all of a sudden at the end they don't show up and you can't resell that spot?
Let me answer. Okay, so it's kind of crazy because we do our tours. I don't know how everybody else does it, but we start our tours at 9 a.m. and the tours last an hour. So 9 to 10, and then our next group starts at 9:30 to 10:30. At each time slot, we allow 200 participants. So that's a lot of people. We really, and I'm gonna be honest, we don't have that many last minute cancellations. I'm very fortunate we don't. The biggest problem I see how it can affect is in the summertime when it is just one group and I have 5 staff members there and we've prepped for the day and we're only there for that one group and then they don't show up. That's when we get upset. But on a busy day in the fall, sometimes, I mean, this is bad to say, but sometimes if a group doesn't show up, we're like, whew, that's one less one we got to do that day. I hate to say that, but we really very rarely have those last minute cancellations. We understand crazy things happen. We're very fortunate that we do have the customer base where we're very trustworthy of the teachers that come back. They're very happy with their experience. We don't have that many that don't come back. So, another thing that we do is when we come up with activities or takeaways, we try to come up with activities that we could use for something else. So if we're buying soil, if we're buying seed trays and packets and all these things, if they don't show up, we're not using perishable items that we can't use for the next tour or the next season. We're just stocked up, ready to go. We have summer camps. So if we do see in our storage room, we have a ton of this item, we just use it for our summer camps. But we're very fortunate that that's not usually an issue. We do something called Special Needs Day, and that is a day that we dedicate for groups that have special needs. I have a degree in special education as well. So the biggest thing for them is having the time for them to actually take their time at their own pace to do the tour. On a typical day, we're fast paced, we're moving, we don't have, but for them, we slow it down. And the way we do that is we only allow so many people. It's a very, very short day. I think we only allow 300 total students for that whole day when we are used to seeing 800 to 900 kids, because we want them to have time. We want them to enjoy. It's going to take them longer to move from station to station.
Yeah, makes sense completely. And I will tell you, we haven't done a special needs day, but I would love to. I could see where there is a huge need for that, like there is the homeschool. And yeah. I would say for us a little bit when those big spaces cancel out last minute, even if they cancel and you don't have staff standing there, at least from our perspective, we are not a station-based tour for us. And we do a lot of field trips and tours, especially in the fall here. But where Patterson is much more station-based, so they can move in those people. We're different. We do a smaller amount of people max through a day. The numbers they are talking, my staff would quit. It would not be good. But no, our max would be a 250. That would be our max on a single group. Now we do a 9:30 because most people travel at least 45 minutes or 1 hour to get to our location. So we take that into consideration. And then we do an 11 a.m. Most of our public schools want to do that 9:30 a.m. because of when they have to finish lunch, finish play, travel their hour back to school and do that. So it definitely is different. It hurts us when those last minute people cancel because you're right, I can't fill the spot. It's for us a nature of doing business here. I want to hit another question here because I see we're getting down to 10 minutes. And if you guys have any questions, once I answer these that we have in the chat, please come off mute and come, and we're going to ask Desiree and Michelle any other ones. But I loved this one because you guys mentioned as you sent stuff home with the kids that you branded it. And I love that concept because you wanted their parents to know. The kids may not remember we were at Patterson Farms, but you want their parents to know. So in addition to the stickers, is there anything else that you do to get the kids, to get the parents to come back after the field trip?
Yeah, so we have activity books that we give the kids, and it's branded. We sat down and for our pumpkin activity books, we created this book. We've had coupons in the past. Our DVD presentation that we do in the Barnyard Theater, we get a lot of parents, and we also take that time to say, hey, Patterson Farm is not only a field trip destination, but while you're here today, we have an ice cream shop. We have a market that sells jams and jellies. We do Easter events. We do pick your own strawberries. So we give them that time where they're all in that one space and saying, you can come back. There are more activities to do. Our summer camps have exploded over the last couple years. We have flyers that we give out when customers come to the market. We kind of staple a little, hey, it's summer camp this summer. If they love coming to Patterson Farms, imagine what it's going to be like with 20 kids and it's just them. And they get to be at the farm and they get to experience and kind of go more behind the scenes. That's something that we really try to do. That's something that we market. We are constantly putting things on Facebook. But we want them to come back. But if we have the parents there that day, we also want to make sure that they're not doing the field trip and then leaving. We want them to go to our ice cream shop and get ice cream. And then they know, hey, if we're ever around, we can get ice cream here. Or if they come into the market and see that we have, fresh tomatoes and salsa and milk and all these things, for them to see that we're more than just a field trip. Because even as long as I've worked there are so many times when we get people saying, I didn't know you had all this, or I didn't know you had an ice cream shop. So we're very fortunate, but like we said, for pumpkins, they have a sticker that says, I picked my pumpkin at Patterson Farms. On their strawberry clamshell, it's like, I picked my strawberries at Patterson Farms, because they'll say I went to a field trip, but they won't remember the name.
No, I love that.
And we
absolutely
give them
that.
books. Yeah. So we give them books and it has our logo and our, all that stuff. So just for them to see our name, it's just kind of what we try to do.
No, that's great. And while we're talking about that real quick, and guys, if you have, either raise your hand if you want to come off mic or type it in. But I want to ask, is there anything that you guys do for marketing to get field trips? If somebody out there is just starting out, are you doing it via social media? You guys obviously have a large following, but how would you recommend for someone to start getting field trips if they're just getting into that business?
But that's a good Michelle question if you want to answer it. She's our marketing team. She can talk. If not, I will.
I'm going to backtrack. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So real quick, I want to backtrack just to that question. Just one thing that it is frustrating if a group does cancel for buses and stuff like you said, but one good thing about Bookio is you can have a wait list for some times, and that way if somebody were, if they wanted to come on a certain day and you were booked up, that you maybe have those opportunities to fill it in. That's just something to consider, but I would love to hear if anybody has, unless they don't show up, like Desiree said.
Yeah.
As far as marketing, I think the first thing you need to do on your surrounding county, reach out to them. There's usually a lead teacher for the coordinator for the school district in your district offices that can help you. The good thing now is a lot of the school systems, if you're sending for the third grade lead teacher on their website and send something directly to, a lot of times it's a something that's kind of changed since way back when I pulled zip code books or telephone books and everything. We do a mailing well, we actually are trying to do it before school lets out to let them know about our fall tours so they can go ahead and book before they leave for this summer. And then we send out a reminder postcard like in February or January for our spring field trips. I think that, like I said, social media, of course. And then once we have their email, we try to direct send them things as each season.
And I think going back to, you've got to make it worth the teacher's while. So we really are catering to the teacher. So whether that's sending out vouchers for teachers to come back with their own family, whether that's we give out classroom sized pumpkins so they can take back. We always want the teachers to think, wow, they're giving us so much stuff, like whether it's bags, whether it's individual gardens or activities that they can take back. We want to take care of the teachers because it's ultimately them that is making the decisions on where they go. So we want to make them, I was very fortunate. There was a huge customer base when I first started working there 6 years ago, but we always take care of our teachers. Mailing lists, you can email, you can send out paper flyers. As a teacher, they put stuff in your box all the time, but a lot of stuff's done electronically. You can send that pretty cheap and rather than printing something and mailing that.
Yeah,
But
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And I tell you that getting to them, but once you get to them, and I really love the model that you guys take of do it right, do it for the teachers, make them have something to talk about after. I had another question, and then I because I want to respect this hour that we have here, and we have here, does anyone do tours that are not for schools, like behind the scenes tours or something similar? I'd love to hear more about that. I'm gonna tell you, for us, we do some things like that. Some of them are focused more on weekends because we need people to be off work. So back in the spring, we did a bunny
blooms and cow cuddles.
bunny blooms and cow cuddles. It was very well received and sold out because cows are a new fetish. If you didn't know, you should. And it is the little cute Highland cows. But we often do behind the scenes tours to try, for us, anywhere we can encourage education with agriculture. And if I could put,
The tasting tour.
yeah, that, and we do a tasting tour. She's right, in the fall. So a lot of it'll go toward older groups. It may be some assisted living or senior groups, but we do a tasting tour at the orchard. They're still going to press the cider with us, but we want you to taste our cakes. We want you to taste the apple butter, the regular versus the sugar-free. So we do some different tours behind the scenes. I still say Patterson Farms, they really do a well-rounded amount of, I think if they show us anything after tonight is that you don't have to think inside the box. You could think outside of the box. And guys, I encourage you to reach out. And if you go in through the A&A, remember, this is a value-added product of the A&A, and we want to hear from you. What other things would you like to hear about? I'm going to talk a second here about next month. Join us next month on that second Thursday. It's going to be handling customer conflict. And I don't care what part of agritourism you do, you are dealing with that in some capacity. So it really doesn't matter what. And we're really blessed. We've got Diana May with Jordan Lake Christmas Tree Farm is going to be our moderator. And then we have Victoria Patterson, and Michelle, I apologize, I do not know her married name because there is another name after Patterson. But this young lady has been working a lot and learning a lot about dealing with customer conflict. And a lot of times it's getting you off, again, like group tours, off that beaten path to approach it. I just heard from Desirae, it is Chrisman, Victoria Patterson Chrisman. I probably botched the pronunciation, but getting off that beaten path of the way you deal with these guests when it's time. But we look forward to having you that month. The month after is going to be flowers at the farm. please tell us what you would like to see coming up after. We're trying to find people to help out with this, and we hope this is something that is going to benefit your farm with just ideas, or at least to put some ideas off of us. I want to take a minute, thank tonight the North Carolina A&A, and obviously Michelle and Desiree for being our experts tonight. But guys, thank you so much for being part of this great organization and continuing agritourism and agriculture around North Carolina. And we
Hey,
hope
Beverly.
yes, please go.
I had a quick thing about, you were asking about doing the other tours that weren't kids. And
Yes.
just as, you know, myself and 3 other, well, actually it's 6 other farms has varied. We actually get together and do such a tour. We call it She Farms Apex. So
I forgot
it's,
that, Diana. That's a great one.
and so, you know, if you don't want to do it just by yourself, but you have folks that are near you that maybe you wanted to do that behind the scenes, and that's really what everybody comes for, is that kind of behind the scenes look of what everything is going on. So just as a, you know, if you don't want to do it by yourself, but maybe have some colleagues that are near you, that has, you know, been quite fun.
No, and that's partnerships, and I can't say enough about teaming up with those around you that are like-minded. And so that's a great idea, Diana. Any other comments, guys? Come off mute, tell us. But you know, outside of that, we're going to release you, and thank you for being part of this. But who's up next, Marissa? That's why she's the brains.
No, this is something that I wanted to add from last time. I see a lot of new faces, but guys, if you want to put your name in the chat and your farm, because I know a lot of people like to connect outside of these calls, I would love to see them in there. And that way, if you're new or everybody wants to see what kind of tours or different activities you do at your farm, they can connect afterwards.
No, thank you. Absolutely. Outside of that, guys, this was a pleasure as always.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Chris.
That was awesome.
It was great. Thank you, guys.
Well, I feel bad. I feel like having
Michelle,
please
this could be a
reach out to
seminar,
us,
and we would
and
not finish.
I will be on the next. Well, I'll look forward to the coming of Empower Hours. But anyway, if I can ever be of help to anyone, please let me know. I'd be delighted. Someone helped me
Thank
along
you.
the way, just like Beverly said. So
Thank you, guys. So great to see you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Diana. For
Thank you.
supporting. Miss Rita, love seeing your name every time. That is making my day. She is the queen of beginning of the field trips. Miss Rita, she's forgotten more than I'll ever remember, I can tell you.
I'm old school. I'm learning. I'm real old school.
Well, and those of you don't know, her husband is mentoring me in apples, and God bless this man is all I can say, because his patience is long. And so, no, they're a fabulous family we enjoy.
yes.
So thank you guys so much. And we look, please join us next month.
Bye. Thank you.